Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining. We are live for Financial Peace University. We are going into lesson 6 tonight, which is understanding insurance. This was probably, I would say, probably the scariest lesson I attended. As I went through FPU, I found that I was not insured the way that I should have been, and there were a lot of lessons learned. One thing that you'll find is that in as you go through financial planning, you go through all these different steps. You have to make sure that you have insurance set up, which is a large wall to protect you from what could potentially come in and attack your progress against the baby steps. So let's say that you have paid yourself off of debt. If you're not insured properly, your fully funded emergency fund, so that all that took you that year to save up because you didn't have the right insurance, you might become bankrupt by that. And all that money that you saved up could be gone if you're not insured properly. So that's really what we're going to be spending some time tonight to talk about is the insurance lesson. We're going to move into it pretty quickly. This one's got, let's see how long this one is. A solid hour, so it's going to take a pretty decent amount of time. I don't want to spend a lot of time me talking because I will be here afterwards to answer any questions that you have. If you guys have any questions, I'll be watching chat, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys during the lesson.
What comes to your mind when you hear the word insurance?
Expensive.
I think most people think it's useless.
Complicated.
A few things I'm not going to say on here, but let's call it a necessary evil.
Let's see. Coverages, co-pays.
I think of stability and reassurance.
Overpayments.
Boring.
Scammers.
How do you know what kind of insurance you actually need?
I mostly look for what's convenient, accessible, affordable.
That's the biggest thing, is being able to get a plan that I can afford and know I'm covered.
I don't know. I guess the big ones, health, house.
You have to do your due diligence. You have to look around. You have to read, find out what they offer.
I think you just have to look at what you have that you need to protect.
If I'm owning a home, I'm going to need homeowners insurance. Depends on where I live. If I live maybe down by the river or something like that, maybe need some flood insurance.
There's a lot of options. I guess that can be confusing.
I think most people would probably think it's pretty complex, and they're probably just not educated on it.
United States, you got to have insurance to have good health care. So
Life happens. Bad things happen.
You don't want it until you need it, and then it's too late.
So insurance is very important to protect yourself and others, and support your family.
Things happen, and it can take a huge hunk of your savings. Even the dog has insurance.
When I got employed, it was like, and this is what you need.
Yeah.
And this is what you need. There's no classes in college for that.
Understanding insurance. Now let's look at a really exciting topic, insurance. Try to keep you awake for this, all right? Hey, listen, we've talked a lot about how you make money with this offense and how you build wealth with your offense and how you work the baby steps. But you got to have a good defense too. You got to keep that fist up in front of you to guard, to block for you. You have to have a good defense, and insurance is absolutely necessary of the right kinds. Insurance does not make you wealthy. Do not buy insurance to build wealth. Insurance is only there to transfer risk. The purpose of insurance is to transfer risk, and it's not for peace of mind. I heard somebody tell me one time they bought insurance on their heating and air system on their house, and it gives me peace of mind. But it doesn't give me peace of mind when I'm stupid, okay? Don't do that. Don't do that. That's not where peace of mind comes from. Peace of mind financially comes from a big pile of money because you did not give it to an insurance company. That's where peace of mind comes from. So the right kinds of insurance are there just for defense. Your peace of mind comes from the fact that you're being proactive, you know what you're doing, and you're investing over here. Don't look for insurance to give you peace of mind, and don't look for insurance to build your wealth. It won't. Now, here's the rule with insurance. We're transferring risk, so we want to transfer the big things that we can't handle. Your house burns down, that's a several $100,000 problem. Most people can't take that. You need homeowners insurance, right? You have a flat tire, you don't need flat tire insurance. You need to buy a tire. Quit insuring everything, because all these guys make money on you. Only use insurance to transfer risk of things you can't cover. The big things we pay for insurance to cover. That's all. The little things we don't. Now, there's 7 types of insurance that you do need. We're going to cover those in this lesson. Life insurance, auto insurance, homeowners or renters insurance, health insurance, disability insurance, long-term care insurance once you're 60, and ID theft protection. These are insurances you do need. Let's look at the big one that everybody talks about, life insurance. Life insurance is to replace your income if you die. It replaces lost income due to death. It's really death insurance. But that's not very marketable. So they call it life insurance. But you're really dead when you get the money, and you don't even get the money. There's 2 types of life insurance. There's term life insurance that is for a specific term, 1 year, 5 year, 10 year, 15, 20, 30 years, whatever the specific term is, that's what your term insurance is. That's all it does. It's inexpensive, and it has very little bells and whistles offered with it. It's just insurance. The only way you collect it is to die, so you never collect it. Someone else does. It's term insurance. The other kind of insurance is called cash value insurance. Several types of cash value insurance. The old-fashioned worst one is whole life insurance. And then there's universal life insurance. Now there's variable life insurance. But all of these are much more expensive, and the extra money you spend on them goes into a savings account inside the policy called a cash value. And that's how it works. Now, one of the most common insurance myths is that the need for insurance, life insurance, is a permanent need. The only permanent need in life insurance is your agent's permanent need for a commission. You don't need life insurance if you're 26 years old, have no debt, and no one depends on you to eat, and you're single. You don't need to go buy a big life insurance policy. If you die, you got a little money in the bank, mommy and daddy will pay for your funeral, they will cry a lot, and we're done, okay? I mean, that's it. That's brutal. That's just brutal. So your need for insurance is only there if your people are counting on your income, and you have to replace the fact that that income dies when you do. That's what it's for. But the life insurance guys don't look at it that way. So let's look, for instance, at a 30-year-old couple. Let's say they're making the average household income of $60,000 and they're investing 15% of their income. Now let's take this 30-year-old couple, Joe and Susie. And Joe and Susie have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and they're 30. And they make $60,000 a year. And they start our plan today. Let's visit them 20 years from today. They're 50. They have a 21-year-old and a 23-year-old. If they've done their job, both are getting ready to launch permanently. So the kids are raised, right? They're done financially with the kids. Should be, hypothetically, if they did their job. It's 20 years later, we tell you to never take out a mortgage over how long? 15 years. So the mortgage is paid off, right? There's no other debt, because we've worked on that way back in baby step 2 about 17 years ago, okay? So there's zero debt, no mortgage, kids are grown and gone, and they've been investing 15% of their income in baby step 4 for 20 years. So they're gonna have $800,000 in their mutual funds, in their 401k, and they're 50 years old and Joe dies. What happens to Susie? She's got $800,000, no mortgage, no kids to raise. If she has zero in life insurance, is she okay? Say yes. They became self-insured by alleviating debt and building wealth. So your need for insurance is not permanent as long as you work the stuff we're talking about. Now don't go do one piece of what we're talking about and then say it didn't work because you didn't do the other stuff. But if you do the stuff we're talking about, that's where Joe and Susie are going to end up, and many millions of them have already, so you're going to also, after watching this and being a part of this. So life insurance is to replace lost income. Now, once you reach that point, like I'm completely self-insured. Obviously, Sharon will be just fine, probably happier once I'm gone, right? her and the Shih Tzu will do just fine, right? They're going to be okay. And so, she'll be remarried in about 20 seconds. And so, but everything's going to work out. She's okay. So we don't need life insurance. You know what, though? I've got some term life insurance. You know why? SWI. Sharon wants it. No apparent reason. She'd just rather me spend the money on that than on one more diamond. So she said, I want $3 million sitting there just in case. No, not just in case, so when? Like, when? So our whole estate plan is predicated on me dying first. I'm a little worried, okay? So let's take Joe and Susie that's making $60,000 a year, and let's walk them into a life insurance agent's office, and he sells them what most life insurance agents still sell in America today, a cash value policy. He sells him a $250,000 policy. It's $200 a month, and it's one of these cash values, so the sum of the 200 goes into savings and builds savings over time. Now, we did a detailed research for this lesson, and the top 5 stock companies that sell whole life, this is the average. After 20 years of doing that, at age 50, that 30-year-old will have $34,000 in cash value. At age 70, they'll have $124,000 in cash value. Let's compare that. Let's say instead of that they just went and bought a 20-year level term insurance policy on Joe for $250,000. It doesn't do anything except insurance. That's all it is. But the deal is it's only $13 a month instead of $200 a month. So that tells you that the other $187 is not in the cost of insurance, is going into the retirement. So you can actually back out the rates of return on the whole life policy then, can't you? And you would find the rate of return to be around 1.2% that the average whole life policy is paying. So it's a horrible rate of return. Now, with the $250,000 worth of coverage for $13, we take the $187 and put it in a good mutual fund, hopefully in your Roth IRA or something like that. At age 50, it'll be $186,000 instead of $34, and it'll be $2.2 million instead of a lousy $124. Now, here's the problem. Not only does cash value have a horrible rate of return, about a 1% rate of return, and you see the differences created with your wealth, but when Joe dies with the cash value life insurance policy, his wife, if she's the beneficiary, will get a check for $250,000. What happened to their $124,000? They keep it. The insurance company does. You do not get your savings and your insurance. So it's as if you had a savings account at 1.2% that when you die, the bank keeps your money. This is stupid. This is the payday lender of the middle class. This is how the towers in the skyline of every city are banks and life insurance companies. This is how they did that. This is how they came to own half of the world in the life insurance industry. And so quit giving them your money. Stop it. It's a ripoff. You're getting screwed. And you need to wake up to this. It's a bad product. Let's keep going and let's discuss it a little more, because really $250,000, Joe makes $60,000. $250,000 at 10% is only going to create a $25,000 income for Susie. So he really needs more insurance than $250,000. So let's double his insurance and see what happens. Let's put him at $500,000. That's still not enough, but just to show you double the insurance, only $20 a month, still freeing up $180 a month to invest, still ending up with $2 million instead of $124,000. And when Joe dies, Susie's going to get a $500,000 check, and they've got $2.2 million in mutual funds. Not they kept it. This is kind of a slam dunk. Once you understand this, you would never keep that other garbage unless you've lost your health and are unable to get other life insurance. So if you own this trash, get some term insurance in place and cancel it. It's killing you guys. It's killing you. No one believes in the whole financial world, no one believes in cash value life insurance except those people that sell it. All the financial planning community, all the investment community, all the people like me, anyone who's independent and isn't selling the garbage and writing about it says, don't do this. The only people that tell you to do it are the ones that sell it. And now you can see why. Because by the way, life insurance agents get paid on the premium. So if you're making a sale, would you rather get paid on $20 of commission or on $200 of commission? And so they are incentivized to sell trash. And it's horrible, y'all. It's horrible. It's rapidly going away. It's become a horrible thing in the industry that people inside the business like me are just looking at it going, it's got to stop. And we've been saying it. And it's starting to move. There's a huge movement towards term insurance and has been for years. And when it comes to buying insurance on your kids, don't buy Gerber life insurance. It's a baby food company. Think. And if you use cash value life insurance to send your kid to college, they're never going to college because you're making 1% on your money and college is going up at 7 to 8% a year. You don't do this stuff, folks. Term insurance is the only insurance you should buy, and you should buy 10 to 12 times your income on you. So if Joe makes $60,000 a year, he ought to have $600,000, $800,000 on him. And as we noticed, it's the cost of a pizza when he's 30 years old. And his wife is taken care of if, God forbid, something happens to that young father. And in that case, in our example, the young breadwinner. You can switch it and make Susie the breadwinner. I don't care. But the breadwinner needs to be covered. Both of you need to be covered 10 to 12 times your income on 20-year level term. 20 years from now, the kids will be grown, the mortgage will be paid off, and you'll have some money, and you can drop this garbage, all of it, and get out of the insurance business if you want to. Or you can afford to buy a little policy like I do, just SWI. Children don't need life insurance on them. They're not producing an income. It'd be one of the most horrible things you could ever go through to lose a child. But all you would need maximum is an amount to bury them. And if you have a fully funded emergency fund, it'll cover a funeral, God forbid. Okay? So you don't need to go that way. So if you got a cash value policy, drop it. Never use life insurance as an investment. As a matter of fact, never use any kind of insurance as an investment. It is only to transfer risk. Do your investments with investments. Insurances to avoid: life and disability on debt that you owe. It's called credit life. It's 50 to 100 times more expensive than term. We just saw that Joe could buy for $20, $500,000. $20 will also cover your John Deere riding mower and pay that off if you want to buy a policy that goes with your loan when you're signing up for the loan. Just $20 more and you can pay off the lawnmower. Instead of $10,000 worth of coverage, though, had you went over and bought term, you could have had $500,000 worth of coverage. I actually met a guy one time who had life insurance to pay off the debt on his rototiller. His wife's going to be able to garden, but that's all we're sure of. Unbelievable. Mortgage life insurance. Now, this is another one pulls at the heartstrings. At least the house will be paid off. We'll get some term insurance. This is 20 times more expensive than term insurance. But it comes in the mail from your mortgage company and it's real gimmicky. And we go, well, it's not that expensive, but it's still 20 times more than if you got an independent insurance broker to give you a bid on term insurance for the exact same amount. Don't buy mortgage life. Now, the one time you would buy it is if you're uninsurable. You got health problems. Most mortgage life is without a medical, and you can get it where you can't get any other kinds of life if you got a medical problem. So you would pay 20 times more in that case just to get some insurance because you can't get it at all otherwise. So, but otherwise, if you're healthy, for goodness sake, stay away from these gimmicks. Double indemnity. You get twice as much if you die by accident. If you die by accident, you're not double dead. You're just dead once, okay? Your family doesn't need twice as much if there was an accident as if it wasn't an accident. You have a heart attack walking towards the plane or the plane goes down. Either way, your family needs to eat. This is crazy, y'all, but it's just a few dollars. You know why it's just a few dollars? Because it doesn't really cover much. It's horrible stuff. We had a lady tell us a story the other day. Her single mom sister finally got life insurance, and she was so proud, and a horrible thing happened, and she died 3 months later of cancer, and then they found out the insurance she bought was accidental only. And she got nothing. Nothing. That's what this gimmick stuff does. Stay away from it. Cancer insurance. You have health insurance. Why do you need cancer insurance? because it's real emotional, and we all know someone that's had cancer, and it messes up your life. But it's not even the number one killer of people, okay? It's the number 3. And it's still up there, okay? But you don't buy heart attack insurance. You have health insurance. These are gimmicks. They're gotchas. Don't spend money on this stuff. Prepaid burial. Oh, I love this one. Had a guy call me on there. He's 40 years old. His mama died, and they went through all this emotion and trauma and drama and everything else getting the funeral done. And they made a lot of mistakes because they were so tore up, and they overpaid for a bunch of stuff in the funeral. And everybody was, brothers and sisters were all fighting and everything else. Y'all know how that goes. And he goes, I'm not having that happen. I already took care of mine. I said, what'd you do? He goes, I already prepaid my burial. Everything's done and picked out, and I prepaid it. It's done. No one's going to fight about my stuff. Well, that's really noble, and I get your motivation on it. I understand. But how much did you pay? He said, $5,000. Okay, you're 40 years old. Are you sick? No. Well, you have a life expectancy of a male in the U.S. today of 74, of a female of 76. And if you've lived to 40, you're probably living up into your 80s because that life expectancy includes infant mortality. So you're probably going to live into your 80s. So you're 40. If we take $5,000 and invest it in a mutual fund from 40 to 80 and never add anything else to it, it turns into $465,000. Who are you, King Tut? Kind of funeral are you getting, Bubba? In other words, take your own money, invest it. If you want to pre-plan and pre-select stuff on your funeral, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. That's kind of a nice thing to do for your family, actually. But don't prepay 40 years early. Invest that money, but let your family pay for the $10,000 funeral out of the $500,000 that created. Everybody comes out better except the funeral home. All right. Another one's return of premium. I'm going to pay a little extra, and then if there's no claim on the insurance, I get all the money back. If I buy a 10-year level policy on term and I live more than 10 years, I get all my premiums back, but they charge me a little extra for this return of premium feature. Here's the math. Take the return of premium extra that they charge for that little feature, invest that, you would have gotten more than your premiums back, whether you died or not. You would never get them because when you're dead. But that's how this works, right? Waiver of premiums, the same thing. If you become disabled, we will pay your $13 a month. And they charge you enough that you could have bought 73 policies for that little bit of extra had you invested it. You're getting your butt gimmicked off. Gimmick, 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 gimmick. Are you feeling it? Do the big ones where you're transferring big risk. Don't buy all this little rip-off stuff. It's killing you. Vision and dental insurance. This one's easy. Add up what you spend on vision and dental in 1 year, unless your company gives it to you for free. If you're paying for it, you add it up, you never break even in a year unless you have a major dental explosion of some kind, okay? You never come out on that one. It's really easy. I run the numbers on it. I don't even furnish it to my team, and I furnish them all kinds of insurance as a benefit for our team. I believe in having my team protected on things that matter, but that's when you self-insure through. Go get your teeth cleaned. Hello, really, this is not hard, folks. Don't get nickel and dimed, and understand that you never invest in insurance. Insurance is for protection, not for an investment. Y'all ready for me to bring Chris Hogan back out? Welcome him back to the stage.
Thank you, Mr. Dave. So Dave just walked you through some insurances that you need to avoid. I'm going to walk you through and guide you on some things that you want to make sure that you have in place. Some things to protect yourself and your family. Remember, insurance is transfer of risk. You make a payment, and in exchange, they give you coverage. And it's really important. But can we talk for a minute about how people drive? You guys got any crazy drivers near you? Oh, let me tell you what happened to me, people. Just several months ago, it's raining, I'm driving, somebody decides to stop abruptly at a yellow light. Now, I don't know where they were from, but where I'm from, yellow means speed up, right? You're supposed to keep going. They stop. It's wet. I slide in, I bump the back of the car. You know the drill. You put on the blinkers. We go over to the side. I get out of the car. I am furious, right? I get out, and as I'm walking up, this little 16-year-old girl gets out of her car. She's crying. full tears. As I'm walking, I turn from Incredible Hulk to caring dad. I was like, honey, it's okay. She goes, no, my daddy's gonna kill me. I said, no, just call him. It's my fault. I kept going. I said, it's on me. And so she goes, will you call him? I go, no. Let's get him on the phone. We talk with him. You know, you stand there and you wait. But I can tell you this. One of the things out of this 16-year-old's mouth was, well, I know I have insurance. And I said, young lady, I do too. And so this mindset, it's really important for us to have auto insurance. It's important. But I want you to hear me. If you have a fully funded emergency fund, I want you to think high deductible. Okay? This is a great way for you to lower your premium. Think about it. If you've got an emergency fund and you're able to increase your deductible to $2,500, watch what happens to your monthly payment. But again, you're only in this position because of your emergency fund. So it's very important. Now, for auto insurance, I want you to think of full coverage. When you have full coverage on your car, it covers three things. It covers collision, comprehensive, as well as liability. Now, these are important for you to understand because collision covers the cost of your repairs to your car after a collision. So in my instance, my repairs on my car were covered, as well as I had to cover the repairs, and it was just a small dent, wasn't a big deal, but it was one of those things that I didn't have to panic, right? It was frustrating enough to have an accident. Now what you don't want to do is to be scrambling financially because you didn't have the right coverages. Now, you could have a situation where maybe a tree fell on your car, or oh my goodness, a teenager backs into a mailbox. I've got two boys about to learn to drive, okay, and my blood pressure is high, right? I'm stocking up on Pepto and Rolaids right now, okay? Because I've got to make sure that I've got the right coverages on my car as well as my truck, because accidents are going to happen. But what you want to do is to make sure that you're prepared. Now, if you have a paid-for car, hear me, you can consider dropping collision. Right? If it's paid for, you've got the emergency fund. That means if something were to happen to it, you can take care of it yourself. So again, we want to take these steps and start to think bigger picture, not just have this sit it and forget it mentality and hope everything works out. Because like I told you, Murphy's Law is anything that can go wrong will go wrong. So with car repairs, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. We all know it's going to happen. But I want to remind you, liability coverage is absolutely important. You want to make sure that you're carrying that at all times. Some people will try to get $100,000 in liability coverage. It's just not enough these days. You want to make sure you have a minimum of $500,000 in liability. This will protect you all the way around, so make sure you jot that down. But remember, you also have liability on your home. So I want to talk to you about homeowners insurance and renters insurance. Now, this is a big deal because in homeowners insurance, things have changed dramatically over the last couple decades. We used to have what was called guaranteed replacement costs. That meant that they would rebuild your home regardless of what it costs. But nowadays, it's essentially a stated coverage amount that they cover, which means based on what you told them your home was worth, that's the coverage they provide, and some may add 25 to 50% to that. But I don't want you to assume, which means you are responsible to keep your homeowner's insurance up to date with the appreciation value of your home. So if you bought your home 12 years ago and it was a $300,000 home, now that home could be $400,000 to $450,000. You want to make sure that your insurance coverage is increasing based on what you have. And so it's really important for you to stay in check on this. I advise people to check in with your insurance agent every 1 to 2 years just to make sure that the contents inside your home, as well as your home actually in itself, are properly covered. It's really important. But I want you to know, even with some homeowners policies, there are some things that aren't covered. And we've all seen in the news some horrible things that are happening, like floods and earthquakes. If you live in an area that's prone to one of those items, you want to make sure that you have the proper coverage. That'll come typically in the form of an additional rider that you have to add on to your existing policy. But again, don't assume. You want to make sure you're being proactive. Also, renters insurance. This is something a lot of people forget about. But if you've got a college-age student that's going to be living off campus, or if you're renting yourself, it's really important to have renter's insurance. Your landlord is not responsible for your contents, okay? They have nothing to do with that. And most people they forget, renter's insurance is not that expensive. You know, typically it's $185 for $20,000 worth of coverage. So again, keep this in mind and make sure you have yourself protected. Now, we've talked about automobile insurance and homeowners, but there's another insurance policy I want to make you aware of. As you start to build wealth and grow wealth, there's something out there called an umbrella policy. This policy essentially is just like an umbrella where it extends coverage over your car as well as your home. Now this, again, if you've got a net worth of $500,000 or more, this is something you definitely want to take a look at. And listen to me, it's not expensive. Okay, let's talk about health insurance. Now, I, several years ago, got an opportunity to understand how important this is. You see, we started a flag football league at the office, okay? And one of my friends, Brian Williams, who runs Financial Peace University, came up to me and convinced me to come out of retirement. He's like, Hogan, we need you. I go, no, I'm too old. He goes, come on, dude. And so my boys heard about it and they were like, Dad, we'd love to see you play football. We didn't get to see you play back in college. So anyway, they started playing to my ego, people, and I came out of retirement. It felt good. I was having flashbacks to my glory days, and everything went good till about the 7th game. I felt something in my knee, something wasn't right, and it started burning a lot. And so I just, kind of muscled through it. Guys, you know how we are. I was like, oh, it'll be okay. So I hobbled around for about 42 days. Mama Hogan said, you need to go to the doctor. You're going to need surgery. I said, first of all, you are not a doctor. You can't look at my knee and tell me what I need. I go to the doctor's office. He does the MRI and all the stuff. And he goes, wow, how long have you been hobbling around like this? I was like, about 42 days. He goes, you must have a high pain tolerance. He goes, you have a torn meniscus. And then he said the words I didn't want to hear. He said the words that I dreaded. He said, you're going to need to have surgery. I was like, boy, I wish you hadn't said that. So I called Mama Hogan. I said, hey, Mom. She goes, how's the doctor's office? I said, first of all, you could ask me how I'm doing, right? Like, how are you? I love you. You could talk about something. I said, yeah, I went to the doctor today. She said, what did he say? I said, he said everything was fine. I said, Mommy said I need surgery. She went, mm-hmm. You know that mama tone, right? So anyway, got it done. But I'm going to tell you something. Health insurance nowadays, it's important for us to make sure that we have the right coverage. You need good coverage. Health expenses are the #1 cause of bankruptcy in North America today. Okay, medical expenses. 66% of people who file bankruptcy attribute it to medical bills. So it's really important for us to look and not just have the right coverage, but understand what we have. You and I know how health insurance works, right? You make a premium payment, and in exchange for that, when you go to the doctor's office, you either have a copay or they pay for it. And this continues throughout, and you either pay the copay or the co-insurance, right, until you hit your out-of-pocket maximum. Once you do, they cover everything else for the rest of that year or until you change your policy. But hear me, with the traditional policy, you want to make sure that you raise your deductible and your co-insurance to bring your premiums down. You've got that same option like you would have with your automobile. So again, it's a mindset as you get yourself out of debt and you're building your wealth. Now, a health savings account, or HSA as it's called, is also a good plan. This works with high deductible plans and can pay for medical expenses tax-free. Now, I want to camp on this and talk to you for a few minutes because this is a plan that people are getting confused and they really don't understand the opportunity that you have with it. With a lot of plans, you'll pay everything out of pocket until you hit the deductible, but after you hit that mark, everything else is 100% paid. Now, HSAs also have a triple tax advantage that I want to tell you about. See, you won't be taxed on the money you put in, but then the money grows interest and earns all of this tax-free. Also, you've got a great opportunity to use it for qualified medical expenses. Now, I said qualified, okay? Some of these elective surgeries that are out there, you can't do it. Like my buddy wanted to get calf implants. And I was like, what are you doing? Why would you do that? He goes, yeah, they shove some silicone in the back of your leg and it makes it look like I got calves. I was like, well, what about your chicken thighs? What are they going to do to fix that? Are you going to look all out of whack, right? You look, yeah, you're out of balance. It don't make sense, right? HSA, but for some things, if it's medical related, it can be covered. But once you turn 65, you can take the money out for anything you'd like, not just medical expenses, but you will pay taxes on it when you do. So it kind of works like a traditional IRA in that sense. But hear me. Let's say, for example, you're an everyday millionaire and you've got a $5 million net worth. You start to think about this as you fund and max out this HSA, you could literally have $200,000 to $300,000 sitting inside of that. And as you have a medical related expense, you can cash flow it straight out of your HSA. So this is something not to forget about, that you have options as you walk through this. So the HSA can be a great option for you if your family is healthy or if you have someone in your family that's dealing with a chronic illness, because you're constantly going to hit your deductible pretty quick throughout the year. So this is something you definitely want to talk about and sit down with an insurance professional and really dig into to see if it can fit for you as well as your family. Now, some people may not have this as an option inside of your job, but it doesn't mean that you can't find it outside as well. So it can help you cover deductible as well as out-of-pocket expenses that pop up. This extra part of funding inside of the HSA, I want you to hear me. I don't want you to get focused on trying to do that until you've done the other baby steps, which means you've done a $1,000 emergency fund, baby step 1. Baby step 2, you've attacked debt using the debt snowball. Baby step 3, you've got a fully funded emergency fund. Once you have those things in place and you're starting to invest, then you can begin to look at adding additional money into the HSA. A friend of mine told me his daughter was about to turn 14, and then at the next year, she was going to be able to date at age 15. And so he had this plan. He said, Hogan, I want you to chaperone all her dates. And I was like, oh, I can do this. He said, if I go, my daughter will be mad. But if you go, she'll be mad at you, not me, right? And I said, oh, and we walked through all of this, you all. I said, I can assure you she'll be safe. Matter of fact, when we're in the movie, I'll sit in the middle. And he can hold my hand and I'll hold her hand. And we'll transfer that through, just that extension, right? You dads out there with daughters, you like this program, don't you, right? Now, I bring this up because I'm about to talk about disability. And that's what was going to happen to that boy if we didn't keep his daughter safe, right? We got to keep people safe. But disability insurance, listen to me, it replaces income due to short-term or long-term disability. Now, we all know this. And most people tend to think it's not going to happen to them. But you and I know life does happen. But remember, we only get insurance on big things, right? And so short-term disability is not a big thing. It's a small thing because you have a fully funded emergency fund. So there's no reason to try to cover that or pay additional money. It's an expense you don't need. Long-term disability is an absolute must. This is a glaring hole that I'm seeing in people's financial plans right now. People don't have it in place. Listen to some of these stats. According to the Social Security Administration, 1 out of 4 today's 20-year-olds will become disabled for 90 days or more before they turn 67. And then they said if you're 30 years old, you're 12 times more likely to become disabled than die by the age of 65. So you look at this and there is essentially a stat that's saying at some point you're not going to be able to work. And we want to make sure that your family is covered, but you're also able to take care of the necessities. But people are walking around without this coverage, and it makes me nervous for them in the long term. So it's a big deal, and it's the most underinsured area of most people's financial plans. And I want to show you an example. Let's say we got a young couple. They're John and Kelly. They're a single income home. John's a contractor, and let's say he makes around $80,000 a year. Well, Kelly's a stay-at-home mom with their 2 kids. Obviously, we all know if she's a stay-at-home mom, her job is much harder. But let's say that John gets in a wreck coming home one day, has some life happen, and now he's not able to work for 3 months, okay? He's out of commission, and he can't work, and they have no long-term disability. Well, now this single income home just turned into a 0 income home. Now they've got financial stress and strife on top of this accident. And you can kind of see how things can compound, and this isn't helpful. You can imagine his emotions, her emotions, everybody's out of whack. And so it starts to cause more stress and strain than it had to. So now what would it look like if they had long-term disability? Well, if they had that in place, Kelly can still be at home, right? And John can focus on healing because he's going to receive 65% of his pay. So the $80,000 that he was making, he's going to receive 65% of that because he had long-term disability coverage. Now, there's some few ins and outs that I want to remind you about with this insurance. First and foremost, you want to get this through your job, okay? Long-term disability, not short-term, long-term disability. If you can't get it through your job, look at getting it through a trade organization or through your insurance professional. Number two, with disability insurance, the deductible is called the elimination period. Now, that's a fancy term. All it means is the time that has to elapse before the insurance company starts to pay. Typically, it's around 90 days. But again, if you've got your fully funded emergency fund, you can see how you're in a position to be able to take care of that because you know money is coming. Typically, for long-term disability, you have to have a doctor that literally will say you are disabled. And once and only once that doctor says that, that's when the clock can start. So you want to make sure that you're prepared. Even though you have that coverage, it's not a reason for you to take your foot off the gas and being smart about how you're conserving your income. Be aware that there are some policies out there that will cover you for brief periods of time. You don't ever want to take on any policy that covers you for less than 5 years. You want to be mindful of that, and that's, again, something you look at and update as time goes by. If you do buy it before tax and you become disabled, your disability check will be taxed. So if you buy it after tax, now you're dealing with tax-free income coming in. So again, this whole mindset of understanding pre-tax, post-tax really has a monumental impact financially. You do want to make sure that your coverage on your long-term disability is 65% of your income. This is a big deal because it'll allow you to continue to take care of the four walls. Shifting, talk to you about long-term care insurance. This is a big deal, especially as people are aging and they're having life happen. But hear me, the day you turn 60, you want to make sure that you have this policy in place. You want to make sure that you've done the paperwork and you have it and you're fully covered at this point in time for long-term care insurance. Don't buy it before age 60. You get a lot of people out there that are getting pushed on them in their 40s, and it's just too soon. You're wasting money right now. It's rare that someone would need it that early. But 70% of people over the age of 65 will need long-term care at some point. So it's a high percentage and it's a big deal. And here's why you'll need it. Ladies, did you know that 75% of you will outlive your husbands? Okay, now stop planning. Okay, stop. Okay, 75% of you will. And so here's the mindset. You guys may have worked hard to have a nice nest egg together, but if you don't have long-term care insurance and he ends up going into a nursing home, then that's where things can happen. You can start to lose a lot of the wealth you took so much time to accumulate. And so they say the last 6 months of a person's life is the most expensive. And so in that scenario without long-term care, if you all didn't have that and he went into the nursing home and you spent a lot of your money or almost all trying to take care of him there and he ends up passing away, now you have nothing left to be able to live on. So as families, we have to think this through a little bit bigger. Long-term care insurance is there to help you safeguard your family as well as your wealth, and it's really important. Now, some of you are sitting out there and you're like, Hogan, I'm in my 20s or 30s. I don't even need to worry about this right now. Well, listen to me. I do want you to pay attention because I want you to go back and check in with your parents. Do they have this in place? You see, that's the beauty of this information. It's a two-way street whenever you talk about gaining knowledge. We've got an opportunity to engage with our parents and ask and talk and find out and share information with them. I can tell you, it's very awkward to start parenting your parents, right? It's an awkward situation as you do this. But here's the thing, love trumps awkward. Love trumps anything that's weird because you're communicating with them because you love them. But I can tell you guys, I've had 2 instances of awkward conversations. The first one was a few years ago when I had the talk with my boys. People, I speak in front of large audiences. My largest group is 25,000. I got a little nervous, but I love what I'm doing. This was an audience of 2. My back was sweating. My voice was quivering. It was a situation, okay? I needed a shot of Robitussin to get through that. But we made it through. The next most awkward conversation was talking about long-term care with Mama Hogan, right? Nobody's mind wants to go there where you have a parent that's incapacitated or needs help like that. But I'm going to tell you something. If you allow awkward to prevent you from having a conversation with someone you love, that's an issue. And I don't want us to let pride get in the way or anything. You let love lead the way. And you have that conversation and you ask. Not from a spirit of greed, but just asking just to see if they have this coverage in place. So long-term care insurance is an absolute must if you're age 60 or older. You want to make sure that you get it in place. If you've got millions of dollars, then don't worry about it because you can self-insure. So again, that's a mindset. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, Hogan, what about government programs? Don't they help? Well, listen to me. Don't make the mistake of believing that Medicare will pay for long-term care. It will not. But there is a program out there called Medicaid that helps people that truly don't have any money. Now, unfortunately, we have some unscrupulous people in the world that will try to move assets out of their parents' names, right, for the sake of trying to qualify them for Medicaid. I'm going to tell you, if you go that route, that's fraud, and the government will prosecute you. So it's not necessary. I mean, imagine you don't want to get incarcerated, right, when you were trying to help your parents. Now you're in jail and you can't help them, right? This is a lose-lose scenario. So let's just get the right coverage in place and be smart. The long-term care industry is still trying to find its way. Okay, back in 1985, there were 100 companies selling this, right? Right now, we have around 13. So there are a lot of changes going on out there. We've got to be in tune. We've got to study and read and understand what it is that we're dealing with. Now, a lot of companies out there are also offering what's called hybrid policies. Okay, write this down, hybrid. And what they're doing is they're using cash value insurance built inside of this coverage. Stay away from those policies, okay? Just like you don't want cash value as your life insurance, you definitely don't want this associated with long-term care. It is expensive, it's a ripoff, you don't want that in your life, so stay away from it. Okay, so I get a phone call 4 years ago, and I pick up the phone and it said, Mr. Hogan, how did you enjoy your salon visit? I said, excuse me? Like, how did you enjoy the facial and the X, Y, and Z? I go, first of all, I've never been to a salon. Number two, I definitely didn't go to one in Wichita, okay? So what is this? I had a situation of identity theft where they attempted to do this and use my name. So mindset-wise, I want to talk to you about ID theft protection. This is a big deal going on. Now, technically, this isn't an insurance product, but it is a protection product. So it falls into this realm of us being smart and be aware. Identity theft is a big deal right now. So many transactions are done online that our information can be out there on networks that are unsafe, or people can just get a hold of it. So we want to be smart. But last year alone, 17 million Americans were victims of identity fraud. Okay, 17 million. So this is a really, really big deal. According to the U.S. Justice Department, there are 74 robberies every hour in the U.S., but there are nearly 2,000 identity theft issues each hour. And so you see this and we understand it's a big deal. But I want to caution you, do not buy ID theft protection with credit monitoring only. Credit monitoring is something you can do on your own. Each year we can get a copy of our credit report from all three credit repositories. Okay, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. You can get a free copy. So paying for that is not something you want. What you do want is to have good identity theft protection that provides restoration services. Okay, this word restoration is a big deal because what it involves is it includes a counselor to work with you to make sure that your good name and everything is put back to the way that it was. On average, people can spend 600 hours or more trying to make phone calls and clean up a mess. We're already busy raising kids, working in our careers. We don't have an extra 600 hours to contact the police department, get writing samples, and work through the whole process. So if you have this coverage in place, it will protect you. So hear me, don't skip identity theft protection, and especially look out for your parents as they're aging. Too many of these scams are trying to take advantage of the elderly, and it frustrates me. So be smart, be aware, and have that coverage. As I travel around the country, I've noticed some potholes. You all have some potholes too, okay? Some situations, right? And I see it everywhere that I go. I bring this up because I think it's really important for us to identify. If the state can't take care of a road, what makes you think they're going to take care of your babies? Right? If they can't take care of a road, what makes you think they're going to take care of your kids or your grandkids if something were to happen to you? So I want to talk about wills. It's very important right now. We have to have this in place. We've got to protect ourselves. Only 40% of Americans have a will, and there's simply no excuse for it. Hear me, anyone that's 18 or older needs to have a will in place. You need to be able to specify what you want done and why it matters. I look at a will as a last gift to your family. It makes clear where you want your things to go and who you want them to go to. I look at this, if I show you guys this, what is this? It's a cane. It's just some polished wood, isn't it? You'd be wrong. This was my granddaddy's cane. And it was left to me in his will. And there's a reason for it. You see, this is not an expensive cane. But the deal is that as I was growing up, he and I used to walk together long before he needed a cane. I can remember I was at 5, 6 years old, and he would take me for a walk and he'd give me a piece of big red gum, which for a 5 or 6 year old was tantamount to putting a piece of charcoal in your mouth. And he'd give me the gum, and of course I was too proud. He goes, "Boy, is it too hot for you?" I go, "No, sir, I'm good." I was sweating, about to pass out, you know. But I wanted him to know that I was tough enough to handle it. And we would walk. As he got older, he needed his cane. We didn't walk as far. But I can tell you what a big deal this means to me. The fact that it was left to me. And what it stands for is a few things. Is number one, he said, don't ever be so proud to walk and talk about what's on your head and heart. He says, as men, we can be stubborn and we can refuse to reach out and get the help you need. And he says, and most of all, I want you to always make sure you're walking with the Prince of Peace. Lord and Savior loves you and he'll guide you through whatever comes your way. What's amazing is after he passed, before my third son was born, I walk with my boys now, and guess what they take with them? They take this cane. And in my mind, there's a spirit there that my grandfather's walking there with us. He didn't get to meet all 3 of my boys, but there's something about him that's in me that I pass on to my boys. And so I can assure you, if there's a fire at my home, there's 2 things I know will come out of there outside of my children. And that is this cane and the quilt my grandmother made for me. They matter to me. And I'm gonna tell you something, you've got things that were left to you that matter to you too. And I want it to matter enough that you take the time to write it down. Maybe even write a letter about it of why you're leaving it to a certain individual. It makes a statement and it means something. And as I walk through tough times with my boys, whether they've been in surgery or just a tough time in life, I'll take a walk with my granddaddy to this day with this cane. And there's something about it that resets my head and my heart because I know that man loved me and took the time to pour into me. And you've got things like that that you want for your family to have as well. What we have to do is take the time and be intentional. Because if you don't, the government will make decisions for your stuff. And that's a reality. So let's take the time to do it. Dying without a will simply puts stress on your family. Just take the time, love them enough to be able to write this stuff down and get it in place. I also recommend that you do what we call a legacy box. This is where you get all of these valuable documents in a place. Your life insurance policy, your will, all of your last wishes, and just have it in one area where it's easy to find. And if your kids are old enough and responsible enough, maybe you have a meeting and you even walk through these things, okay? Death is a part of dying, unfortunately. And so we have to talk about it so we can respect each other and respect wishes. This legacy box needs to be waterproof as well as fireproof, and it can contain tax returns, life insurance, all the things, your passwords. Get all that information in place. And if you have parents that are aging, I want you to have that conversation to make sure you know their wishes. So in conclusion about insurance is not a baby step. It's part of your budget. It's imperative to get these things in place. So for life insurance, contact a life insurance broker. For all other insurances, I want you to get with our endorsed local providers. These are professionals that Dave and I trust, and I know they're going to treat you the right way. But I want you to make sure you get this done. Don't sit in here today if you don't have life insurance or a will in place. As you leave today, job 1 is to get those things done. But I wanted to take a minute and show you something. I wanted to show you why life insurance is so very vital.
Scott and I met at Maine Maritime Academy, which is one of the merchant marine academies. We moved all the way out in Texas 2 weeks after we got back from our honeymoon. It was very exciting. We did a lot of traveling. We went down into the Caribbean. Our last trip that we took was to Paris. That was our thing. We were very adventurous. We wanted to experience those things with each other. That's why we got married so young and experienced so much. I was the one who brought the debt, primarily. I had $80,000 in student loans. And then shortly after our marriage, we did the typical, just graduated college, Scott got a truck, and then I got a car. And that brought us up to $120,000 in total debt. It took us 2 years, to dig ourselves out of that hole, but we just wanted to create that long-term legacy for us and our family. In January 2017 is when we found out we were pregnant. We needed to get life insurance, especially because of the fields that we worked in. Everybody tells you how exciting it is to have a baby, but you don't really understand the magnitude of it until you do. 2 weeks after Sullivan was born, we had a beautiful Sunday. We got up and had a nice brunch. It was beautiful. We had a very nice time. We came home and gave Sullivan a bath, and it was his first bath, and laid Sullivan down for bed. I got a shower, came down. We had just sat down on the couch. I made some popcorn. About 10 minutes into the movie, I felt a pressure on my arm, like Scott was leaning into me, and our relationship was very comedic, so I thought he was trying to annoy me. I'm like, what are you doing? It only took a moment for me to say, okay, what's going on? And I looked over at him, and he was just rigid. I kind of went into emergency response mode. You're on the ship and they train you for medical emergencies, and I kind of just went into autopilot. I was on the phone with 911. I got him down on the floor. I did CPR on him until the paramedics came. From where I was sitting, I could see the clock on the stove, and I just kept looking back at the stove. And I knew that it was taking too long. All these things were running through my mind, but I never once thought that he was going to die. I kept saying in my mind, what am I going to do now? What am I going to do now? We'd been together for 9 years. He was my first boyfriend, and he was my last boyfriend. He was my husband. I'm sitting here with a brand new baby, and my world just fell apart. And the only thing that I can do is to focus on the financial part of it, because at least that's one less thing to worry about. I'm 27 years old. I am not supposed to be filling out paperwork for a life insurance claim on my husband. None of this is easy, but from a financial perspective, it makes this a lot easier, because I don't have to worry about what Scott would want, because he told me what he wanted.
Hi, baby. How are you today? Are you taking care of your mom? Well, I'm at work. I'm still thinking about you and your mom. Just remember I love you, and stay healthy, and I'll see you soon. Love you.
I am so thankful that we did those preparations, that we had those conversations, because we have the life insurance. I'm able to stay home with Sullivan and take care of him, which is what he needs right now. And I'm able to do that because of the preparation that we did.
So as you can see, insurance is really important. It can be confusing. Sometimes we hate it, but we know we need it. Teams that win have a good offense and a good defense. Boxers that win keep their guard up with a good defense and create an offense. People who handle money well, who win with their money do the same thing. They have a good defense and a good offense. Insurance protects you. It's there to transfer risk from you to the insurance company to give you peace of mind in areas that you can't afford to take the hit. You keep your guard up. It's that simple. Now, go check out your policies and use our coverage checkup tool with your Financial Peace membership and make sure you got the right things in place. The next lesson is all about investing. Yeah, you've been wanting to do that, but if you just do investing with no guard up, you'll get your block knocked off, so don't do this. Time to start walking you through how to really build some wealth. And this is where you learn the practical information on investing and you start planning. So don't miss this next lesson. It's how you're going to create the legacy. It's kind of so that I got out of debt so that I could do this. This is the so that lesson. Don't miss this. It's a fun lesson. Now it's time for your 1 minute takeaway. Write down the one thing you're going to do this week because of what you learned in this lesson.
Okay, guys, what do you think? Insurance. I think it's an extremely powerful lesson. I think that like I said earlier, and I'm not sure if you guys heard, but I honestly don't know that there's a more powerful lesson in this curriculum than insurance was for me. If you guys, I didn't see any questions come through on chat, but I think the key things to look for, number one, make sure that you have enough coverage for you and your family. Make sure that you have health insurance because it can bankrupt you. And number three, make sure that you are budgeting for life insurance. If anyone else is relying on your income, that's going to be super critical. Okay? Thank you guys so much. Love you. Thanks for joining us on with FPU with TBE. You guys have a good night.